Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. How I got even with a crap former coworker that wanted to spread rumors. I worked as a security guard for a few years at a factory. My last year, I had made site supervisor and ran the guard booth. We were contractors. Our contract was simple. Make sure everyone who comes in is logged. Watch the cameras. Call bigwigs to pick up their visitors. Every now and then, we did a walkthrough or some paperwork. Simple, and it leaves you with a lot of relative downtime depending on your shift. During my tenure, I made a few friends, a few enemies, and got along with most of the people working there. It's surprisingly easy to investigate incidents when people like talking with you. One of the enemies I made was a supervisor. Let's call him Ted. Ted had worked his way up from a line worker and felt that since he had made his way from nothing, he deserved his ego. He had squared himself firmly against anyone he couldn't control, and I never gave him his due. We all know his type. Now Ted treated his line of workers pretty poorly, and more than a few came to me to report his misconduct. One of our duties was to log any of these complaints as an incident report, submit a copy to the factory admin, submit a copy to our company, and then file the original. Ted had his own folder in that drawer. Ted did not like this. Ted did not like me. At the start of that not-so-fun little outbreak Susan Wojcinski won't let me talk about and keep my video monetized with, we lost most of our staff in the booth. We were down to 3 guards trying to cover a 24/7 schedule. We did a lot of 12-hour shifts, starting from March going all the way to October when I left. My company struggled to fill the missing spots, hiring 2 guards during that period. Neither lasted more than 2 weeks. October came, I was burnt. Then both my remaining guards quit. I don't blame them in the least. I immediately turned in my 2 weeks and refused to work more than 12 hours a day. After I turned in my notice, my company scrambled to replace me and the missing guards. They got my replacement at the start of my last week, and she started on a Sunday. I trained her for 1 day and she never came back. I discovered on my last day she had claimed that I intimidated her and made her uncomfortable. She told my boss she didn't feel safe around me. Now I was livid at this. I have never mixed business and pleasure. I'm a big guy. I work out. I have never had those intentions at work. It was a major joke anywhere I've worked because my tagline has always been, I don't shit where I eat. I was burnt out. I had an amazing woman I am now dating who was coming out to see me in 2 weeks. I had spent hours training this woman. I had her scheduled during my shift for the entire week so I could walk her through everything to do with the job. I had squared off with the factory admin to keep it that way. I was doing everything I could to help her because she was coming into a major effing mess. Admin was looking for a different contractor. Supervisors were trying to access our files. We had crap tons of sensitive information that would have let anybody move up the ladder quick, or at least remove a lot of competition. It was chaos. At this point, I hadn't had a day off or a good night's sleep in 3 months, and the boss I had only ever talked to over the phone had arrived in person to tell me this crap? I had almost been terminated over this on my last week. If I didn't have the work ethic my father taught me, I would have walked then and there. I finished my day and walked away, never intending to think of that job again. Now the story should end there, but it didn't, and this is the juicy part y'all are hankering for. See, after I left, a few friends kept me up to date on the going-ons. My replacement came back for a day and then quit, citing the long hours would keep her away from her kid. I was salty, but it's not my problem. Until a few days ago. See, Ted had found out about all her allegations and began spreading rumors that I had been terminated for sexual harassment. He then told people that I was a serial harasser and had caused a former female employee to quit as well. She had left as I had gotten the site supervisor job over her. I had seniority and she had a dirty disciplinary record. She had a few incidents that had nearly gotten her fired. I didn't like this, especially given that 2/3 of the incident reports I had on Ted were for sexual harassment. What Ted didn't know was that I don't like being effed with. While I'm quiet and unassuming, I had plenty of time to build my MAD folders. Little personal history. When I was a computer tech, I had been royally screwed over and nearly fired by my then boss. He gave me directives that were a violation of company policy, bad enough that when they came to light, I was given an immediate final warning. Since I had no proof he told me to do what I did, I shouldered full blame. Since that day, I've created mutually assured destruction folders, MAD folders, on anyone that I felt would try to fuck me. Ted was one such person. All the originals of my folders are kept hidden in online storage and most are never touched. But Ted pissed me off and was threatening my future job prospects. Reputation is everything, so I opened his folder. I had access to the camera system at the factory. Folks, small town factories are disgusting. People do shit you wouldn't believe. One really popular thing to do is fuck in the parking lot. Ted had built a little harem for himself by giving better line positions to women that gave him a little action. And I had pictures and video. I made a nice little folder with some choice clips and stills. Then I sent them to his wife and oldest daughter. Dude is 20-ish years married with 4 daughters, 2 in college, 1 graduating in a year or 2. No clue what happened there, but I doubt it's going well for him. And that wasn't the end. I wasn't satisfied. This never would have been a thing if that replacement hadn't used me as an excuse to duck and run. I told y'all there's no saints here. During her 1 day of training, my replacement had asked me about cell phones with good cameras and a bunch of weird policy questions. A few careful questions, and lo and behold, she has an OnlyFans. I warned her that was a huge violation of our contract with the company. Any type of sex work is forbidden, as the company has clients in Vegas and some European countries where that is legal and doesn't want any workers moonlighting. The company is incredibly strict on that. Strict to the point that I could have terminated her on the spot. They're impartial. Man or woman, it's not tolerated. Thinking on this and being very irate, I track it down, and she was nice enough to have links to her premium Snap. I bundle this and send it to 3 groups. My previous employer, the IRS, and her ex. She had been in a protracted custody battle with him, and our state is a little conservative. Judges here do not look favorably on sex workers. Most have a prejudice that the women are hooked on drugs and will harm the child. And I just gave her ex evidence of sex work and possibly tax fraud. If his lawyer can't get at least split custody, no child support, that's on the ex for being a piece of shit. Half-brother threatens to sue me over $16K. It costs them $158K and possibly their parents' marriage. When I, 25 female, was 3, my grandparents passed away. They set up a savings account in my name. The account was meant to be accessed by me when I was 21. At that point, it contained just over $300K. My grandparents left me a letter saying they would like me to share the money fairly with any other Smith-Jones children, meaning my full siblings. Dad's a Smith, Mom's a Jones. By fairly, they meant that they wanted me to assess the situation and judge for myself what was fair. I never had full siblings, but I have 2 half-brothers, Mac and Joe Smith, who are dad and stepmom's kids. Due to the specific wording my grandparents used, I legally never had to give Mac or Joe any money. However, I see Mac and Joe as my brothers, and as the money came from our grandparents, I felt that the fairest thing would be to assign each of us $100K, so we all got an equal-sized lump sum. And I figured that when Mac, the youngest, turned 21 and took his $100K, we could split any remaining money. When I turned 21, Dad suggested I buy a house with my $100K. I found a place I loved, but it was $130K and I couldn't get a mortgage. So Dad said I should borrow $30K from the account. I did, figuring I could pay it back before my brothers turned 21, and I've been repaying it. The account should be at $208K right now, but due to me withdrawing and then repaying the money, it's at $195K, so I still owe $13K. Joe turned 21 recently, and as I was giving him his $100K, Joe noticed that there was less in the account than there should be. I explained and said I was going to put it all back before Mac, now 19, turns 21. Joe told Mac, and both boys said I stole from them and that I owed them the full $13K back plus $3,000 of interest that they felt they would have gotten, and they wanted it all paid by this summer, which gave me less than 6 months to bring the account up to $211K. I said I'd do it, but over the 2 years as planned. The boys then wrote up a contract to that effect. I went to sign it until I saw that it said 6 months to pay it all back. I wouldn't sign as we agreed on 2 years. They said I should figure it out as they were entitled to that money and would be seeking legal advice. Later that day, I got an email clearly written by them saying that they intend to sue me for the $16K plus whatever's currently in the account and additional damages and emotional distress on top of that. By this point in time, I'd given Joe about $50K of his $100K because he wanted it in installments. I responded that legally they were never entitled to any of it, and given their attitudes, I'd say they've already received an amount I deem fair, so that $50K was all they were getting. I then got a barrage of texts, calls, and emails yelling at me for going back on our deal. I blocked them. They then took to social media saying that I was trying to screw them out of their inheritance and rallying our extended family into harassing me over this. And it mostly worked as a lot of people messaged me. However, I got a message from this guy called Chris Smith. Chris said he was 27 and claimed to be my half-brother. I had never met him before, but he sent me his photos of him as a kid with our dad, grandparents, and me. He showed me that he also had an account with $150K in it, and a scan of a letter from our grandparents, saying this money was meant to be shared fairly among Dad's illegitimate children. Chris also told me we have another half-sibling who was 18. He'd been looking for me for a while, but only found me when my dad shared Joe's post, which had me tagged. We checked with the solicitor to make sure, and as the boys are legitimate, they aren't entitled to anything in Chris's illegitimate kid fund. And as they are my half-siblings, they aren't entitled to anything in my Smith-Jones kid fund either. I sent the boys a letter formally telling them to back off, stop posting about me online, and enjoy the $50K because it's all they're getting. The day they received the letter, Chris got a PM from Dad asking if the boys can have some of Chris's fund. Chris also said no and told Dad we'd meet. I told Mac and Joe about Chris and our other half-sibling, with Chris's permission. So it looks like my grandparents, knowing about Chris before they passed, set up 2 funds. One for the kids Dad had with my mother, who was still his wife when they passed, and one for children born out of Dad's affairs, presumably to make sure no one tried to screw anyone else over out of hurt feelings. I'm getting a lot of shit, but holding firm on my decision. The boys have realized that I won't back down on this, and it sounds like I've caused a schism at their house, as Joe has all of the money and no intention of sharing, so Mac now feels twice as screwed. Plus, stepmom apparently did not know about the other half-siblings, or that my half-sister was born after she and Dad got married, and she's made Dad move into a hotel. It sounds like Dad is looking for a long-term living arrangement outside of the family home because it looks like she's not letting him move back in. Dad's begging me to reconsider, but honestly, I'm done with all of them except Chris and my sister. And there you have it, folks. The end of today's r/ProRevenge. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like on the video as well as subscribe with notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in tomorrow's video.